it's completely bizarre.
Yeah.
As you say, they can have troops there pretty much for any number they like. During the Cold War, they had 10,000 troops there. They built a state-of-the-art strategic radar for forward advance warning of Russian missiles coming across the North Pole. So they can get everything they want working with Denmark. And that's what we've got to keep going on saying.
Sir Keir Starmer's strategy for handling the enigma that is President Trump has been to be careful and not to criticise him in public, much to the chagrin of some of his allies. Last night that changed after the President announced he was imposing tariffs on exports from the UK and other European countries unless they back his plans to take over Greenland. The Prime Minister called the move completely wrong. Here's Katie Balls, the Times and Sunday Times Washington editor.
I think we're in for a very rocky period if things persist. If you have European leaders, as we expected, being aghast at what's been happening and saying they're going to dig in and this isn't acceptable. You have a president in his second term who wants to build a legacy and feels as though this is the way to do it and is going to keep pushing on it for various reasons. It's hard to see the reconciliation point.
In a moment, we'll speak to a former economic advisor to President George W. Bush. But first, we're joined by Lord Ricketts, Peter Ricketts, former UK National Security Advisor and a crossbench peer. Peter, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm so fascinated by these tariffs, which in this circumstance, this context, are not about trade. They are effectively sanctions to compel Europe to give up and surrender Greenland. What is your analysis of what's happening here?
Yes, well, I mean, that Truth Social post by Trump felt to me like a spasm of anger and frustration that he was not being given what he wanted, which is control of Greenland. After Venezuela, I think he feels he's on a roll and he can do anything he likes. And with Trump, normally, tariffs are the start of a conversation. They're a start of a negotiation. Everything's transactional with him. And I think that's how we have to play it now. Keir Starmer was quite right to come out firmly in public yesterday to say they are quite wrong. But as usual, it's best to save the tough discussions for private. And actually, we're going to have Davos in the next couple of days. Trump will be there, Keir Starmer and others will be there. And I think in the margins of Davos, the European leaders need to sit down with Trump and say, you're not going to get Greenland, but here's how we can work together so that the US can secure all its security interests perfectly well, working with Denmark and all of us.
But it's slightly odd, isn't it, Peter? Because as things stand, the Treaty of 1951 allows the US to basically do whatever it likes in Greenland when it comes to security. I'm slightly confused why the Greenland Defence Agreement, which was renewed in 2004 and allows the US to build bases there, to station troops there, and more than that, why that isn't enough.
Well, I'll give you a prize for diplomacy in saying it's slightly odd. I mean, it's completely bizarre.
Yeah.
As you say, they can have troops there pretty much for any number they like. During the Cold War, they had 10,000 troops there. They built a state-of-the-art strategic radar for forward advance warning of Russian missiles coming across the North Pole. So they can get everything they want working with Denmark. And that's what we've got to keep going on saying. And it's good to see that Britain and France and others are also now thinking about some military deployments to Greenland, because Arctic security is a shared priority for NATO. It's not true that China is about to invade Greenland, or indeed Russia, but it is fair enough that we should work with Trump to say we all share this priority. You've got all the access you need to Greenland, so let's get on and do it together. Perhaps first of all, deploy some more US troops, as you used to have in the Cold War, if you feel it's such a critical emergency.
It's just utterly astonishing that this is even on the agenda in this way, I suppose, that Trump has forced this position once again. Do you think that European countries, including and perhaps especially the UK, should be more defiant in the face of Trump? Is this the result of Keir Starmer, as his critics would have it, supplicating himself to the president over the last year?
No, I think that's completely wrong and unfair. I think Starmer's done well, for example, in pulling Trump back from a pro-Russian position on Ukraine. And it's one of the extraordinary oddities of what Trump is doing, that in the next couple of days, he will also be announcing this board of peace on Gaza, which you were just mentioning in the news bulletin, in which he expects Keir Starmer to join this top board at the same time as he's trying to impose tariffs on the UK over Greenland. Yeah. So none of this adds up. And I think part of the way through this is to show him the contradictions. Yes, we want to work with you on Gaza, yes, on Ukraine, and on Greenland as well. So put aside this issue of tariffs and let's all get back to the table. Quite often with Trump in the last year, we found that he threatens tariffs, then there's discussions, and then they'll put on hold. And I think that's the way we can go this time. But each time he does it, of course, it undermines confidence and trust among the NATO allies. And NATO is damaged, even if we come out of this, with the sanctions rapidly suspended.
On Greenland, he does seem acutely obsessed and determined and serious. He had this, his administration had this high-level meeting with representatives of Denmark and Greenland over the last few days. The Danish position, it would seem, doesn't come anywhere close to matching the US position. There's a question about whether Europe will or won't capitulate, but underlying all of it is, as you've already highlighted for us, Peter, the strategic importance of Greenland. Donald Trump does seem serious in his determination here.
Yes, and let's put one other point on the table as well. It's not only security in Greenland that interests Donald Trump, perhaps not principally. I think it's the rare earths, the raw materials in which Greenland is rich and which, of course, are becoming more available as ice melts. And so, as so often in Trump foreign policy, there's an economic issue here as well. He wants more of a share of what may be available in Greenland for American companies, and that no doubt will have to be part of the discussion as well. I mean, I think Denmark has already offered the Americans cooperation, joint working on extracting minerals from Greenland, and that's the way to go, to recognize that Trump has some legitimate interests, and then to show him that they can all be achieved without a head-on collision between the US and the Europeans over Greenland, which would effectively destroy NATO as a useful alliance. And we've already seen in the last couple of days Congress, senators from both sides of the aisle in Greenland making clear that there are many people in Congress who don't agree with Trump, who do believe in the NATO alliance, who do believe in Denmark as a loyal ally that has had per capita more of its troops killed in Iraq and Afghanistan than America has, and therefore that he should back off and we should work with Greenland. So I don't think it's lost yet. I think Congress, there's a lot of support for the European position, and I think Davos next week will be the critical next step in getting him to walk back from this angry message, which has not been thought through and is not well coordinated with other parts of his foreign policy.
Yeah. Did you ever think you'd see the day, Peter, where NATO allies were effectively having to stand up in the face of a US president?
Not to this point, no. I mean, I think we'd all got used to the ups and downs, topsy-turvy world of Trump. But for example, to have Denmark having sanctions applied for transferring its troops from one part of Denmark to another, is the limits of absurdity, you think, really. And in the end, common sense can often prevail where it's so obvious that what Trump wants is available to him. But no, this is completely uncharted territory for the Western alliance since it was formed in 1949, and is very worrying for that reason, given what's going on in Ukraine.
It's remarkable. Lord Ricketts, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Peter Ricketts is a former UK National Security Advisor.
It's difficult to know exactly what Donald Trump wants, because in his statement, he said that now the administration was immediately open to negotiation. But what is there to negotiate, really? Because what he's asked for is a binary thing. He's saying, do not intervene to say that I can't take or have or control Greenland. If you don't do that, then you've got the tariffs, and the tariffs have been set at 10%, going up to 25% if a deal isn't made before June. So what deal does he anticipate that could be made? It is, of course, implausible that those 8 allies, NATO countries, are going to say, actually, OK, yes, sorry, we got it wrong here. We think you should take Greenland. Is it that Donald Trump wants increase in defence spending, that he wants more of a commitment in terms of military personnel in Denmark? But you raised there the fact that the US could put as many troops as they'd like in Greenland, and they haven't done it. What is it that he actually wants?
Yeah, it's a fair point, actually. What is the ultimate conclusion of victory for President Trump, and why?
That's plausible.
Yeah, exactly. And why this obsession with Greenland now? So in this year already, which is, let's see, 18 days old, he's gone in and lifted the leader of Venezuela out of office and out of power and effectively put him on trial in the US. He's now chasing and pursuing Greenland. One US commentator reflected that these sort of take it or leave it demand that Trump has now issued in this context to America's own allies over Greenland are harsher than almost anything he has said or threatened to Putin and Russia. And that probably shouldn't go unnoticed in the conversation as well. What is Trump up to? We
also know that Trump's bark is often much louder than the reality of his bite. You know, he had threatened initially for China at one point tariffs of 135%, and the tariffs that actually came into force were about a third of that. But in this case, what is he going to do? Is he using this as an excuse to put higher tariffs on those countries? Because there's no way in which we're going to see the UK Prime Minister say, yes, we fully support you taking over Greenland.